Hello and welcome to Sports Mole's Football Shorts. I'm Barney Corkhill. I'm here with our football editor Matt Law, and we're here to discuss our Game Week 8 predictions for the Premier League season. Game Week 7 again threw up some notable results, and notably, I closed the gap to you to 3 points. It was a good week for me, Matt. Not such a good week for you.
No, a bit of a terrible week for me, to be honest. I think the less said about that for me, the better. And get back to normal service hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, and we kick off with a basement battle, really. It's two teams in growing need of a victory, Brighton versus Burnley. Burnley at the very bottom of the table, still just 1 point from their 6 games so far this season. Brighton in 16th, 5 points from 7 games. And we've said many times that that points tally doesn't really reflect how well they perform. But how well do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's a big game, isn't it? Obviously, two teams that you probably say Burnley. You say Burnley need the points more, but like you say, Brighton's play hasn't really their points total. Sorry, has not reflected their play this season. They've played some really, really good stuff, but not quite. Obviously, sitting 16th at the moment. Like you say, the league table is not massively important at this stage of the season, but games like this are purely for confidence, especially ahead of an international break. You know, you don't want to be going into that sitting off a poor result in this one, but I do fancy Brighton here. Obviously, Maupay looks like he's going to come back into the squad. Obviously, was left out against Tottenham because of whatever you want to call it, really a disciplinary issue. The ins and outs, the really minor details are only going to be known by those inside the club. But he obviously is a big player for them. He's a really, really good goal scorer. I think he's a good player. Got some great players going forward. Burnley, poor against Chelsea last time out. Obviously lost to Tottenham as well after drawing with West Brom. So still without a win, only one of three teams yet to win in the league this season. And the longer that continues, it's going to be disappointing. It's going to be difficult to come back from. But I do think it's going to be tight because Burnley are still notoriously they're strong and stern and they won't roll over. But Brighton here 2-1.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing which comes out on top is the Burnley attack, which is really misfiring. 3 goals scored this season. I think one in the last 6 games across all competitions. But Brighton have averaged 2 goals conceded a game. So it's which one of those less than stellar parts of each team comes out on top. I'm also back in Brighton. I've gone for a 1-0 win in this one. I can see them just with Maupay back. He is a good goal scorer. He's been in good form. And I think Brighton haven't really got their just deserves from their performances. Obviously, points on the board is the most important thing, but it's hard to back Burnley at the moment in most games because they're not playing very well. They're not scoring anywhere near enough goals. They've never been the biggest goal scorers themselves, but they're just getting beaten too often at the moment. I could see that happening again here, so I've gone for 1-0 Brighton. Also tonight is Southampton versus Newcastle. Southampton have been rocked by the news that Danny Ings is out for up to 6 weeks. Obviously, such an important part of their team. But, the form they're going into this match, they'll still be confident they're coming away with a victory. They've been in superb form. Obviously beat Aston Villa 4-3 last time out and went 4-0 up in that one against the Villa side, who have been so impressive for most of the season. Newcastle would also be pretty happy with how they've started the season. They're in 11th at the moment with 11 points from 7 games. Last time out beat Everton, who, like Villa, had such a really good start to the season. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I fancy Southampton here. Obviously, interesting side point is that Southampton win this game, they go top of the league. So, if they were to be sitting top of the table, obviously they'd join Liverpool on 16 points, but obviously the goal difference would be better where they're winning because they're both the same at the moment. So if they could, end the night top of the Premier League table, what a story that would be from where they come from. Everyone always talks about the absolute it was 9-0, wasn't it? The hammering they took Leicester. I mean, we've said it for a while as well. I've said it. I know, like Ralph Hasenhüttl, I think he's a great coach. He's really, really good. He's bright. He signs the right players, and I do like Southampton. I think they're a really, really good side. Danny Ings being out is obviously the fact that it's not a 4 or 5 month is the positive. Because when it first happened, there was a little bit of a fear because he's got previous, hasn't he, with ACLs and injuries of that type. So it's obviously not ideal to be out for that amount of time, but it could have been a lot worse than the situation. So, and they've still got players, Che Adams has played well this season. Ward-Prowse is in really good form. Obviously, Walcott's another option out there. Obviously, they brought in as well. So, interesting game. Newcastle, good win against Everton last time out. Obviously, got, St. Maximum, Callum Wilson's in really, really good form. Players that, they can hurt Southampton, certainly. I do think they'll score, but I've gone Southampton here just 2-1.
I've gone Southampton as well. I've gone 2-0. I think they're just in such good form at the moment. They're 4 wins from the last 5, 1 draw. So all their, 13 points have come in the last 5 games from the last 15 available. It's fantastic form. And Newcastle will be confident that they can get something out of the game, considering they beat Everton last time out. But yeah, I'm backing Southampton to win this one 2-0. On to Saturday. We just mentioned Everton there. They've got a big game against Manchester United, haven't they? You're probably best talking about Man United in midweek against Istanbul Başakşehir. That first goal, I can't get over the defending for that one. But obviously, coming off the back of that defeat at home to Arsenal as well, it's their away form which has saved them in the Premier League so far. All but one of their points have come away from home. But obviously, that defeat in Turkey sort of shattered the two things that have been saving them so far this season, which is Champions League form and away form. So how do you see this one going? It's obviously a difficult trip to Goodison Park, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. Obviously, you look at United, won their last 6 Premier League games on the road. Like you say, they're really good away from home, but they're defending for that goal. Both goals, to be fair, were really poor. Yeah. The second goal as well. I mean, they all got attracted to the near post. The cross comes in, and it looks a lot worse. And you see still images of it. You saw that one where he's just got absolutely acres of space inside the box, and that's just nowhere near good enough. The Arsenal game as well was. I mean, it was a poor decision from Pogba to make that challenge inside the box, because it's just he knows a lot better than that, and it was really, really poor going forward. Not much happening, and like you say, the thing that's been saving Solskjaer this season is the away form and the Champions League form. But that Champions League result was a big one. If you were to pick up another poor result here, obviously the start of the season has not been ideal. He's sitting 15th in the table at this stage, with only 7 points from 6 games. So obviously Martial's back. Will he come back straight into the side? Obviously, we don't know quite, with Telles at this exact moment whether he will be available. Obviously, needs to have a negative test to be involved. It would still be a little bit surprising if he was involved, because he's been out. So, interesting team selection, like you say. Greenwood options in the final third. Will it be a midfield diamond? The diamond didn't really work against Arsenal. Will he go back to a 4-3-3? Will it be Pogba? Will he drop one of the McTominay and Fred? Because I don't really. You need both of them in there against Everton. Obviously, Everton missing Richarlison, Digne coming back's big for them. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin's had a great start to the season. I keep backing United, and I don't know out of this one. I've gone back and forth. I've changed my mind a few times. I've just gone to draw in the end, purely because I do think Everton also be keen to bounce back from a couple of poor results, and I'm finding it really difficult to back United at the moment. I know they've been a good away, but they're just so poor last time out. There's no real pattern to the play at the moment. So yeah, huge game for Solskjaer, but 2-2 here.
Yeah, I've actually gone exactly the same. It's like you, it's one I've found really hard to call, because United just, I think last weekend was the first time I backed them, and then they go and lose so meekly at home to Arsenal. But then Everton, you look at the league position, it's 4th versus 15th, and a lot of people would probably say Everton might be favourites going into this, it being at Goodison Park. And I think for a lot of people, this will learn quite a lot from this game in terms of Everton's European credentials and how they stack up against Manchester United's. Because if Everton win this game, they go, 9 points clear of Man United, which is a big gap to make up, even at this early stage of the season in that top 4 race. I think there will be a lot of drop points this season, but that's a big gap for Everton to have, and Manchester United would obviously then be left in dire straits. It's already the same amount of points after 6 games as David Moyes got, and obviously he was under pressure very early on, so it's no surprise to see the pressure mounting on Solskjaer's shoulders. But Everton, as we say, they won the first 8 games of the season, but then winless in the last 3, 1 point from those 3 games. So they'll be desperate to get back to winning ways. James Rodriguez could be back for them potentially, which would be huge, as we know how good he's been. And for me, that could be the difference between Everton getting something from this game and not maybe. But like you, I've gone for a 2-2 draw in this one. I can't separate the two sides. I can't find myself back in either of them, to be honest, because Everton, I think if either team is going to win, I'd probably maybe lean towards Everton, because they have been more impressive on the whole of the season. But yeah, they're just too, Man United in particular, just pretty inconsistent and very hard to call at the moment. So I've gone for 2-2 like you have in there. Also on Saturday is Crystal Palace versus Leeds. Nothing separates them in the table. It's 12th versus 13th at the moment, both level on 10 points. Leeds are perhaps another one of those teams that fall under the category of it's hard to know what to expect from them. You expect some pretty high-octane football and some easy-on-the-eye football, but recently they've lost at home to Wolves, and obviously last time out lost at home to Leicester, 4-1 defeat. That was a big one, having beaten Aston Villa 3-0 away from home before that. So very contrasting results in those ones. Crystal Palace, they're not in the best form. They're only winning the last 5, I think it is away to Fulham, who obviously have been something of whipping boys so far until this last weekend when they picked up their first win. So yeah, this is another interesting one. Another one I couldn't really separate them, and I've gone for a 1-1 draw in this one.
Yeah, gone exactly the same. I think this is one of those games that's got 1-1 written all over it. Like you say, in the table, both 10 points from 7 games. And, Palace are a strange team, really. You sort of feel like, what are they really going to do this season? Are they good enough to push, towards the top 10? Are they quite good enough? I'm not sure. But are they good enough to stay up? You'd have to say yeah. So it's a weird one. Obviously, Leeds was always going to be interested in their story back in the Premier League. Obviously, they've signed some really exciting players. Got a few players missing for this one. Obviously, no Rodrigo. Obviously, Calvin Phillips is a big player as well for them. Who's obviously out for a little while now as well. So obviously, they'll be looking to Bamford obviously for goals again and creation. And found it difficult against Leicester. I think the thing that sticks out for me is Bamford missed a really big chance in the early in the game, and then Leicester scored. And obviously, that's a standout result to win 4-1 at Leeds. Obviously, that's not fantastic for Leeds in that game. Beat Villa 3-0 away and then lose up 4-1 at home to Leicester, which is a little bit like the story of the season, to be honest, the way it is right now. Teams struggling to put together form, but both teams will be okay with how they started this season. Not any massive, pulling up trees, but they've been pretty good. 1-1, same.
Well, no, you mentioned teams struggling to put together form. Chelsea have begun to put together some really good form. 3 wins in a row across all competitions, 5 clean sheets in a row across all competitions, which when you consider a month or so ago, we were all saying the defence is going to stop them really challenging for anything this season. It's been a huge improvement, pretty much down to the arrival of Mendy. But as a whole, I think they've got a settled backline now. The whole team's defending much better, which is, plugs the major weakness they had. So if they can keep that up, they could be a force this season. This looks like, on paper, the biggest bank you'll have this weekend, because Sheffield United have been in such poor form. Like Burnley, only got 1 point, but they've got 1 point from 7 games. I think it's 10 Premier League games without a win now, going back to their last match against Chelsea, actually last season, which they won 3-0. A lot has changed for Sheffield United since then. They're really struggling to pick up anything. They're not getting beaten by big score lines. And it's worth saying that they've had a difficult run. They've had Leeds, Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City in recent weeks. And they haven't lost any of those by more than 1 goal. But obviously, they've lost them all, which is 0 points on the board out of those games. And their only point so far is a 1-1 draw at home to Fulham. So they're in desperate need of points. I personally can't see it coming against Chelsea. When Chelsea are in such good form, Werner's starting to find his feet. They're obviously without Kai Havertz because of his positive coronavirus test. But other than that, they've got attacking riches to choose from. So I can see a comfortable Chelsea win with this one. As Sheffield United don't get beaten by big score lines, I don't see it being the Chelsea blowing Sheffield United away, but I can see a pretty comfortable 2-0 win in this one.
2-0. Yeah, I've gone 3-1 in the end. I think Sheffield United will score. Like you say, they've been quite good away from home against the big tough sides, but obviously nothing to show for it this season. And I don't really... Is there massive room to panic at this? I don't think their position in the table is the reason to panic, but I do think that they've really, really struggled this season. They're Sheffield United, and everything they were good at last season seems to have gone away, and they've got nothing really to fall back on. No massive flair players they can bring off the bench and things like that. Obviously, they spent quite a bit of money, bought quite a lot of players in over the summer, but it's a tough ask. Like you say, Chelsea, I think the thing of Chelsea, when they drew back-to-back games 0-0 against Sevilla and United, it was then, could they sort of translate that into performances going forward? And I still think, obviously, the 2 Champions League games, Krasnodar and Rennes, they would have expected to win those 2 games. I know they're impressive, scoring 7 times and not conceding, but obviously the win at Burnley was really good. I thought Hakim Ziyech in that game was excellent. He's because obviously he had his injuries problems early on. He's not really been spoken about massively, but Chilwell's had a good start to the season. James is obviously really cemented his spot back there as the right back. So, and Thiago Silva's been a good signing as well in central defence. So, Chelsea this season, like you say, 7th in the table at this stage, 12 points. They'll be keen to. They go to Newcastle after the international break, which is. They'll fancy the chance. It's still a tough game. Obviously, they play Tottenham as well by the end of November. That's in the Premier League, so that'll be a big game. Chelsea here, 3-1.
3-1 to Chelsea in that one. Okay, there's a London derby to cap off Saturday's action. It's between West Ham and Fulham. Finally, West Ham's tough run of fixtures seems to come to an end, but Fulham finally got off the mark themselves, climbed out the relegation zone with their win over West Brom. We said it in the build-up to that match, how big that one was, not just for getting points on the board, but for the psychological aspect of, you can pick up wins at this level. And going into the season, they would have earmarked that as perhaps their easiest match on paper of the entire season. So if they didn't win that match, it would have been difficult for them to bounce back from. But their victory is big, and they travelled to West Ham team coming off the back of a difficult defeat to take against Liverpool, because they were good in that match for a long spell, but obviously lost to that late goal. But they'll still be feeling pretty good about themselves. They went toe-to-toe with Liverpool for long spells of that match, off the back of draws against Man City and that unforgettable one against Tottenham, off the back of wins against Leicester and Wolves. So that's some really good results in really tough fixtures. It's whether they can now replicate that performance again in a match that they're actually expected to win. So how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it, really? We know they can perform against the big clubs, but the next three, Fulham, Sheffield United, Villa, and they're the sort of games you're going to find out really what sort of side West Ham are going to be this season. Obviously, Antonio being out is massive. He's probably the one player that you wouldn't want to lose, would you, with West Ham? I think he's fantastic, Antonio. He's such a honest player, and he's so dangerous, isn't he, in the final third? Obviously, he's always going to get, the problem with he's always going to get, hamstring muscular injuries because of the way he plays. He's so explosive, isn't he? So powerful, and that's what unfortunately going to plague him, I think. But yeah, it's probably a nice.
So. I think him being out just changes the way they have to play completely, doesn't it? With Haller up front.
I think it's it. Yeah, obviously when they played City, wasn't it? And he came off. Moyes didn't want to bring on Haller, did he? Put sort of Yarmolenko through the middle. Obviously Bowen can play there as well. But yes, exactly. I think that's why they were looking at Josh King, wasn't it, over the summer. Bournemouth, he's that type of runner that can run behind, which doesn't say much for Haller because obviously they want to play, especially. But these are the type of game when you're playing away from home against the big clubs, you more tend to go for pace. But Haller, will he start this game? Well, I think he would. Obviously, Fulham, huge win, wasn't it, last time out to get out of the relegation zone for their confidence. And if they can stay out of the relegation zone, going into the international break, I do think that would be big, for Scott Parker. You do feel like the confidence could be a problem for Fulham. They've not a massive amount of, real Premier League experience in terms of, really solid players at this level. So it's a big game. Yeah, West Ham, this is the type of game they will lose. They'll go and put up a full performance, but I haven't backed them to lose, saying that. I've gone 2-0 West Ham there.
Yeah, again, I've gone exactly the same as that one. I think all the reasons you mentioned, Fulham are difficult to back in most games this season. I think that win over West Brom will be big for them and will be big for their confidence. But West Ham, I think they're in good form. They'll be high on confidence. It is that question of whether they can replicate that in a match they're expected to win at home. I'm backing them to do that. I think 2-0 like you do. Okay, also going on to Sunday, we've got West Brom versus Tottenham. West Brom with the team on the end of that Fulham defeat and obviously drop into the relegation zone as a result. They got 3 points, but no wins on the board yet back in the Premier League. So they'll start to have those question marks we just talked about. Are we good enough at this level? Where's our next win coming from? Because they've got Tottenham and Manchester United in the next two, either side of the international break. So, they're starting to wonder if they losing at Fulham, where are those points going to come from that we need to stay up?
Yeah.
16 goals conceded from 7 games is the worst record in the league. That needs to be sorted out, but it looks unlikely against the Tottenham side who are scoring pretty much for fun at the moment. 18 goals, they're the top scorers in the league against the leakiest defence in the league. Tottenham are winners in midweek against Ludogorets pretty comfortably. Probably should have scored more than their 3 in that 3-1 win. Only 2-1 winners against Brighton before that, and 1-0 winners against Burnley before that in the Premier League. So they haven't been as free scoring as they were a couple of weeks earlier in the Premier League, but they'll fancy their chance of this one. And for me, I think in most game weeks so far in this ludicrous season, we're having at least one team scores 4 goals or more, and I can see that being Tottenham this week. I've gone for a 4-1 away win, which I think is quite bold.
Well, that is very bold. If you get that, to be fair, that's probably worth more than 5 points. But yeah, I've also gone Tottenham. I've just gone narrow. I've gone 2-1. Obviously, Harry Kane coming in it off scoring his 200th goal, wasn't it, in the Europa League for Tottenham, which is obviously an outstanding achievement. And the thing interesting for me for Tottenham this season is can they win the Premier League? I don't think you're going to need to be outstanding to win the league this season in terms of Liverpool's obviously Liverpool there's been a little bit of question marks, but they've recently been pretty good, to be fair, in picking up results. But I don't think it's going to be. I mean, what did Liverpool get last season points wise? Was it
99, yeah.
So yeah, around, I don't think you're looking at maybe 84, 85 maybe might win the league this season. Maybe less. I don't think it's going to be. And you can Tottenham win it? Maybe I think it's difficult, isn't it? I don't think they're that solid defensively, but so good going forward. Bale will contribute here and there. I don't think he'll be an outstanding player for Tottenham this season, but Kane, Son, players going forward. Can they? If those two can fire and have fantastic seasons, I think they'll be in and around. Second, third, and in and around Liverpool. That probably says more about the problems of City, and obviously Chelsea will be up there as well. It's going to be really, really interesting, I think, for me to see. West Brom on the other hand, they've spent a bit of money during the summer. Obviously, it was always going to be difficult there. They'll be so keen to consolidate at this level, but I'm sure at Old Trafford in a couple of weeks they'll get the freedom of United's penalty box, so they won't worry too much if they lose this game. But I do think they'll get beat here. I can't really see it being, you've gone 4-1. I'm just gone 2-1 here. I think it will be a little bit tight because of that. Obviously, it's an edgy game. Tottenham are in Europa League action as well. So 2-1 Tottenham.
Yeah, on the Tottenham title challenge point, I think they've certainly got the players to be able to do it. It's a question mark over consistency because they have those results like losing to Everton, drawing with Newcastle, throwing away 3-goal lead against West Ham, losing to Antwerp. That does still happen too often for them to really push for it. But if they can iron that out, and as you say, it might not take the last 3 seasons with 100 points, 98 points and 99 points to win the league are extraordinary. We shouldn't forget that. It usually is about 85 points, which is enough to win the league. So while this is an outrageous season, it might end up being a reversion to the norm in terms of how many points it takes to win the title, and Tottenham are probably capable of racking up that many points. So it's really how the other big teams do, and if they can keep those levels, those standards to what we've seen in the last 3 seasons. Also on Sunday is Leicester versus Wolves, a really interesting game, this one. Leicester, we mentioned those title contenders. Maybe we should include Leicester in that. They're in great form at the moment. They're second in the table as things stand going into this week. 5 wins in a row across all competitions. 4-0 wins against Sporting Braga in midweek, which I thought was a really impressive victory because that was a difficult match. Braga going really well in their league and in the Europa League. So that's a really good win. And 4-1 against Leeds before that is even more impressive. 1-0 win at Arsenal before that. They're in flying form at the moment. And this is a match between 2 teams who like to play decent football, always seem to punch above their weights in a way in the Premier League in recent seasons. Wolves beat Crystal Palace 2-0 last time out there, and 6th, only 2 points behind Leicester. So it's a fascinating game, this one. It should be a really good one. How do you see it going?
Yeah, really, really interesting one. I've gone 2-2 in the end. I'm expecting goals, maybe cursed it a little bit, probably be 0-0. But no, I think the most impressive thing for Leicester recently is, the injury problems they've had. Obviously Ricardo's been out for a while now. Johnny Evans and Ndidi, big players for them. Certainly Ndidi in the middle of the park, and Soyuncu at the back has obviously been out as well. But they've still managed to, really, really rack up the wins. And I think that's credit to Brendan Rodgers. I think he got a little bit of stick in the past, wasn't he, when he was at Liverpool? And he was almost like not a joke figure, but sort of like some of the things he says in interviews, people sort of take the mickey a little bit, but he's not taking the mickey anymore. For me, he's one of the best coaches in the Premier League. He's outstanding. I think the way he sets his teams up, perfect game plans to win games. And I wouldn't mind him at United, to be honest. Obviously, he's been with Liverpool. I think he's a fantastic coach at this level. Wolves are a funny one. I've seen them play well this season. I've seen them play poorly. I'm not 100% sure really what they're going to achieve this season. I wouldn't be surprised if they were, 6th or 7th, but then I wouldn't be surprised if they were 11th or 12th, to be honest. I do think they're sort of scattering in and around. Obviously, they're 6th at the moment, won 4 times, but I still think they've got inconsistent periods in them and certain games, like I say, that haven't been fantastic. But obviously, last time out, obviously beating Palace was a nice result for them, a 2-0 win to pick up important 3 points. So, hopefully this is a good one because it certainly is shaping up to be on paper. And, gone 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2 was the scoreline I immediately went to, but I've gone for 3-1 to Leicester. I can see them getting a win here. I think Wolves have certainly got the ability to get something out of this game, but I can just see Leicester in their current form. They're scoring a lot of goals. I can see them coming out on top in this one. I've gone for 3-1. The standout fixture is, of course, between the top 2 in recent seasons is Manchester City versus Liverpool, a big way to go back into the international break. Man City really starting to find their feet now. They seem to have fixed their defensive issues with that Ruben Diaz and Laporte partnership at the back. Liverpool, of course, we know about their defensive issues with the injuries to Van Dijk and Fabinho and Joel Matip recently. But since that, they've been in great form. 5 wins in a row across all competitions. In midweek against Atalanta, I thought that was a really difficult game for them. I predicted 2-2 in that one. Atalanta free scoring and coming up against Liverpool's 5th choice centre-back. I thought they would, enjoy themselves quite a lot, but Liverpool were superb in that match. We've had some good wins over Arsenal and Chelsea, but that was right up there in terms of the best performance of the season. Certainly a result I didn't expect to hit Atalanta for 5, and not even more surprising, not concede against them. So 3 clean sheets since Van Dijk got injured and only 2 goals conceded. The Premier League wins over Sheffield United and West Ham United have only been narrow ones. Liverpool have had to come from behind in both of those. And certainly Man City will pose more problems than those 2 teams did to this patched up Liverpool defence. Matip might be back for this one. It doesn't look like Thiago will be, which I think is quite big because Thiago just controls the play so much. He's such a good player, and we've only seen him twice in a Liverpool shirt so far. But I've been very impressed with Liverpool's form since Van Dijk got injured. I didn't expect 5 consecutive wins from those games, I must admit. This one is another one, obviously. It's about as tough as it gets in the Premier League at the moment. So this will be the real test of Liverpool. I think a couple of weeks ago, I would have actually gone for a Man City win in this one. But that performance over Atalanta was so good. I've gone for a 2-2 draw in this one.
So, yeah, I've gone 1-1. I thought it was going to go the same. I just think, that Atlanta result, if I'd have fallen asleep and you'd have woken me up and told me they'd have won 5-0 away, and I'd have told you you're living in, cuckoo land, because Atlanta, they were just absolutely, they're full of goals, aren't they? Full of experience, and to win 5-0 away from home is just one of those results you just think, whoa, like that's cool. That's quite impressive, to be fair. City, on the other hand, obviously found some good form as well. Champions League, they've been good this season, back-to-back 3-0 wins in that competition. I think Fernand Torres this season obviously played through the middle a little bit, played in the Champions League, then he through the middle again and scored. And obviously Premier League, he's not really been given a massive chance, but, could he come into contention possibly for this game? I still think he'll be on the bench, Torres, but, Aguero obviously being out, Sterling, De Bruyne, they'll all be there. It's a really, really interesting game because, like you say, Liverpool's patched up defence has been, I say patched up, but you know what I mean? They've still obviously got, a lot of their top players in there, but it's a real test, against the movement of Sterling and, players like that in the final third. So team selection will be very interesting for me. And it will be, I've gone a draw in the end. Not quite the same as you. I've just gone 1-1 here. And hopefully it's a good game.
1-1 for Matt in that one. Okay. Capping off Sunday's action is Arsenal versus Aston Villa. Arsenal winners at Old Trafford last weekend, as we said. And then winners again in midweek, although that 4-1 scoreline against Mold flattered them a little bit because Mold were quite good in that match. Aston Villa, as we know, started the season so well. 7-2 against Liverpool, followed by a 1-0 against Leicester, really stood out. But then since then, they've conceded 7 goals at home to Leeds, and Southampton haven't picked up a point and have slipped down to 8th. They'd obviously say 12 points from their opening 6 games. They would have taken that at the start of the season for sure. But, they've just started to tail off a bit, and the fairy tale start has started to fall away a bit. Arsenal will be confident of coming into this match. I think they're finding their feet, certainly. They still have the setbacks like they did at home to Leicester for sure. But that win against Manchester United, I think that was huge for them. The amount of times where the stat got trotted out that how long it had been since they won away against one of the big 6 teams, to finally get that burden off their shoulders, I think it was big for them. Whether they can challenge for the top 4, I wouldn't put it past them in this season when it's going to be so open, so many drop points. But I can see them winning this one. I think Aston Villa just falling away a little bit. They're still a good team, as we've said, week after week. I think they've got some really good players. But I can see Arsenal winning this one 3-1.
Yeah, I've also gone Arsenal. I think obviously Villa conceding 7 in their last 2 is a little bit worrying, to be honest. Obviously still been a very impressive start to the season. They're still above Arsenal in the table on goal difference. So it's not like they're, coming in it off the, sitting really, really poor position in the table. I think obviously Aubameyang scoring, a little bit of question marks around him. His league form hadn't been terrific. It'd been a few games since he scored. So, and Arsenal just so much better than United, a lot better in the first half. Obviously got the penalty to obviously find the back of the net in that game. And United, to be fair, were really poor, but you have to give credit to Arsenal for the way they played, El Neni was really good in the middle of the park. Obviously Saka's a fantastic young player, isn't he? Great for England that we've got a player like that as well. That obviously going forward, and yeah, I do think Arsenal will, like I say, I think they'll be in and around, maybe be challenging for that top four. And it's an interesting game because Villa have certainly got the players to hurt them, the tools they can, pull up big results. Villa, and they're certainly capable of doing that. But Arsenal here 2-1.
2-1 to Arsenal for Matt. Okay, thanks for that. We'll see how those predictions play out. Hopefully I can make up a bit more ground this week. You can find previews and news and features for all of those games over on sportsmole.co.uk, as well as many other leagues around Europe and the Championship as well. You can subscribe to this podcast on all the usual channels, Spotify, Apple, all those. And you can also subscribe to us on YouTube to make sure you don't miss an episode of this as well. It's the international break, but we will be back on Sunday for some live reaction to Manchester City versus Liverpool on YouTube. So be sure to tune in for that. Hopefully, I predicted a 2-2 in that one, but I also predicted that in the Atalanta game. So hopefully a repeat of that happens and we win 5-0. But we'll wait and see, and we'll have live reaction either way to whatever happens in that game. So be sure to tune in for that, and we'll also be back after the international break for our next round of predictions. I hope to see you again soon.